In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a label, and then we're going to change the value of that label using our button, which we already have created. Okay, so a similar way, we're going to create that function called create label. Okay, and this is going to be slightly different because we don't want to define our button inside here. We want to create it on the outside so that we can manipulate the button, manipulate the label. So we're going to go let label equal UI label. Okay, so that means this instance can be accessed from within our other functions. Okay, so then we're going to define the properties of that label. So again, how big is it going to be? CG rec. Where's it going to sit? So X and Y. 200 by 200 width, 100 by height, 50 is the same size as our button. I'm going to set the text property of our label to the number 0. And set the background color. Again, remember we can just do dot purple, we don't have to do the UI dot purple. I'm going to set my text color. So these are all the different properties which we can manipulate on our button. Let's set this to black. Set the alignment of the text. And then, of course, we need to add our button to our view. Add our label to our view. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is manipulate it using this. So instead of just printing out here, we're going to grab our label text value. I'm going to change it to button pressed. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we created our function, but we haven't actually called it. So I need to, in my view did load call create label. Okay, so we'll run and test this. Okay, I've got a label which has 0 in there. I've got my button. I press my button and it changed to button pressed. So basically we have our create label. We put our label on the outside of our function because we want to be able to access it from our button action. And then we can manipulate the property of that label to change it to button pressed. Now later on you're going to have to change the value of that. So we will have a value which will be the label.text value, but that's currently a string, so we need to change this. Okay, we're going to change this to an integer. Okay, we're then going to manipulate this variable, so we can't have it as a constant. So let's fix this wrapping. We don't want this as a constant. We're going to change this to a var, a variable. And we're going to change this every time we press the button. So we're going to say value equals value plus 2. Okay, so we're going to add 2 each time. And then we're going to change the text label to equal the value. Oh, gave me an error. So it's just unwrapping errors. We just want to force these because it's saying, well, what happens if the value doesn't exist? And we're just going to say, yeah, well, it will exist. Don't worry about it. Just force it. Just put that exclamation mark in the wrong spot. Okay, so now every time I press, my number is adding 2 to it. Okay, and that's the end.